I'm really absolutely chuffed to bring my lovely friend Jane Rhoda onto our interview today. So the reason I brought Jane on particularly as well was I was going to do a video on this topic, and I saw a post that Jane did, and I thought, oh my goodness, she's going to be absolutely perfect for this video that I was going to record anyway by myself. So I'm just going to bring your post up. And the post says, we teach other people how to treat us. And I thought, oh, we are so on the same page here with this. And I had to get you on board for this conversation. So the topic today, Jane, and Jane is a sex counselor, a relationships expert, written many, many books. She's been on my channel many times before. And so she's a perfect authority here to discuss this issue. And the issue is integrity and the lost art of good manners. So I've got a question for you, Jane. And this is something that just happened, and I'm just going to ask your opinion on it. So we organize a dinner party, and we spend all day preparing for the dinner party, getting the house ready, cleaning up, buying all the food, getting the food enough for everybody to come who's coming. That everyone that said they're coming, we bought all the food. We started cooking, 3 hours before, particularly my partner, putting a lot of effort and energy in. And then 1 hour before it was time for the dinner party, we get a text. It was 90 minutes before, maybe 90 minutes at a stretch, not 60 minutes, but 90 minutes before, saying, one of the couples, sorry, we can't make it, with not a particularly good excuse. Now, considering that it's all been in the process of being cooked, the food, do you think that that is good manners, Jane?
No, it's definitely not good manners.
No.
There's a lack of integrity there. However, when we're on our self-development trail and you look at, we teach other people how to treat us, it's interesting that you've contacted me because I've had something similar but different, which I'll talk about. But it's like when there's an upset, this is, I think, is a really fantastic distinction. When there's an upset, for us to take 100% responsibility is to say, to go right back. It's like, what was my undelivered communication? Yes, they're 100% responsible for being out of integrity. They've got to own that. But this is not about them.
Right.
Right?
Right. Sure. Gotcha.
This is the hard place for us all to sit because we want to blame the other person. And we're not saying, that their behavior was admirable or appropriate.
Yeah.
Well, so question is, how do we stop these sort of things happening? So there's a lesson there, which is you're asking, question mark. So go back. What was because upset is always undelivered communication. So what was your undelivered communication? What could you have said or done that would have stopped this from happening?
Well, I sent a reminder the day before as well to remind them.
Okay.
So I did that. And I could have written, please give clear RSVP at least 24 hours prior about whether you can come or not, because we're going to be buying the food and all that sort of thing. But you'd think people would know that anyway when it's a dinner party. But anyway, I could have said that. And, we had some lovely people there, which was fantastic. But there was actually one other instance on the night where another couple who we'd invited contacted us a couple of hours prior and said they're going to be an hour late. What time was the dinner party starting? We said, well, we can wait, for you to come. And then they contacted us half an hour after that said time that they were going to be there and said that they couldn't make it after all. So that was the second couple that did that on the night. So now,
Wow.
so it wasn't just
Wow.
the one, it was hence the video for why men is so important and integrity is so important. Now, I had an inkling that they may not become because I'm intuitive, but I thought I said, oh well, this might happen because I don't know them super well, and I thought that that might be the case, but nevertheless, yeah. I mean, I personally, when I am invited to something, I'll say yes or no, really clear, have clear communication, whether I'm coming, whether I'm not coming. And then if for some reason I can't come, I wouldn't cancel at the last minute like that. It would be way before, and I'd give a reason. So, look, I'm really sorry I can't come. I've got something on, or blah, blah, blah. And I'd be clear about that well before, because I know that they would be buying the food and all that sort of thing. But it was true that my partner did go back, and he went back to a previous time, like 10 years ago, when we were invited to something and we had to cancel last minute, and they were disappointed. He said, oh, maybe that's why it happened, because we did that like 10 years ago. But yeah, so yeah.
Well, it's a bit, so if you think back to the communication with the couple, okay. So because it's about boundaries, isn't it? Also, um, because if people have a sense that we're too nice, or they can take advantage of that, or they think they can get away with it. So the couple that said they'd be an hour late, then they didn't turn up. So what could you have said to hold a boundary, but with respect?
Sure, I hear you. So I could have said, for example, well, look, if you're not sure about whether you can make it or not, perhaps we'll leave it for now, and reconsider another time or something like that. Sort of. Do you mean something like that?
Yeah, or yes, yeah, that's a possibility.
Mhm.
Or like so we will go ahead and we'll just let you know where everything's prepared. We'll go ahead and start. And just so you know that if you come when you when you turn up, that we'll have some dinner there for you. However, we will have started. You know what I mean? It's like,
I think I sort of said that. I think I said by 7 we'll probably have started, eating. So yeah, just to sort of let you know, I think I said that.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And did you start eating though, or did you wait for them?
No, we started eating
Oh, good. That's good.
because I didn't hear from them till after then anyway. So yeah, yeah.
Could you have text them again, or said just checking in again?
No, because I was
Informally?
too busy running around organizing and chatting and everything with the dinner
Of
party
course, of
with the
course.
people that were there. So I didn't want to put energy into other areas where, people, yeah, weren't as responsive. So
Yeah, and it's an issue because
yeah, yeah.
it's an issue because it has an impact.
Mm.
Excuse me, it has an impact on other people.
Oh, yes.
I had a really amazing conversation with a client of mine. Actually, really changed her life because you know how sometimes clients will show up late?
Yes.
Not very often that happens with me, but occasionally. So I had this woman, and the first time, I let her get away with it because she was first time client, and she said, she's stuck in the traffic or whatever. But I finished on time
Yes.
so that I didn't set it up that she could get away with that. So she lost like 15 minutes of the session.
Yeah.
But then the second time she came, she did the same thing. And I asked her a question. I said, um, uh, I just want, do you mind if I ask you a question? Right. are you often late in your life? And she said, oh, yeah, my kids complain about that and da, da, da. And I said, so are you present to the impact of being late? And I went through, like, because it's the same. There's a communication, like the same with these people
Mm.
that didn't turn up. There's a communication in them not showing up. So what's their communication?
Uh,
It's silent, but what's their communication?
well, I guess it's that that they're not wanting to um,
What's the
connect
nasty,
at a level.
what's the nasty stuff though? Underneath it's sort of a bit of a nasty.
Controlling, you mean? Like a controlling thing?
Well, it's like, my time and what I want to do is more important than yours.
It's to me, it comes across as a very cavalier attitude that it's just like, oh, I don't really care about you.
You
It's
don't care.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah,
I,
yeah.
yeah. And it's very entitled. Anyway, I had this whole conversation with her. I asked her, so what's the message you're giving to people? Like how,
Sure.
how do
No,
you show up to other people? And like it was very confronting to her, but I had to say, I had to draw her attention to that. She
mm,
told me it changed her life. And
mm,
she went and she apologized to a lot of people. She had a conversation because she's got a business. And I said, well, how does that affect your business as well?
yeah,
Like for you or for me, like if I have an appointment at 10:30 and I don't show up till 10 to 11 or something.
yeah.
Like it's not a good look.
Well, time is our most precious asset in some ways, and so to honor another person's time is clearly a way of saying I honor you and you are important and you're as important as me. Otherwise, it's sort of like saying I'm more important than you, and I don't really care about your time. So I can sort of do what I want. So there's a certain inherent like you say, entitlement, maybe a bit of arrogance, something like that in it, that is a bit dismissive and dishonoring. I mean, simple other things like manners to do with, when you say please or thank you or things like that, that's all super important. And I do all that because I think it's really important. But I'm very, very punctual. I try and always be I'm usually even a bit early for a lot of appointments rather than even on time because I want to be honoring of people. And I'm not perfect, of course, nobody is. Occasionally I'll get lost in something and I'll forget something that's very rare. It's happened like once in the last few years, I think. But I'm generally very, very mindful of honoring everyone else's time in the way that I need to be respected. So it doesn't happen that often for me, but this is particularly too when you're dealing with people that you don't know so well and that you're just starting to sort of get to know, because the ones that you sort of are more familiar with, that they'll be fine. But you know what I mean? So there's a lot of different elements there.
Yes. And I think it's a bit, it's that some people, like tonight, there was an owners corporation meeting, where I was. And I said to one of the guys that I know, I said, are you coming along? Because we need to go to this meeting tonight. And he said, I'll try to get there. And remember Yoda, was it Yoda from Star Wars, said, there's no try, you just do, right?
Yes. Yes.
So anytime we use the word try, it actually means there's a high chance we won't do it.
Mhm.
So that's a lack of integrity too. So I wrote back to him and I said, Yoda from Star Wars says, and he just went like, which is calling him to account, right?
Yes,
And
yes.
if anyone says, I'll try and do something, I say, So that's holding someone to account. It's like, I just need to know for sure, not maybe, but will you be there or not? I need to confirm, you know?
Right, exactly, which is really clear communication. And I mean, you wouldn't think that when you invite someone to something that you'd have to be that specific. You think that they would know whether to RSVP and say, yes, I'll be there, no, I won't be there, all that. But these days, you have to, spell it out totally about what you expect, whether, to the nth degree, it seems.
So, and people are human. Like, I know for myself, a couple of times I've put in a client's appointment in the wrong date,
Right.
right? And someone rings me and says, Jane, I'm outside your office waiting for you. And I go, oh my goodness, I have a heart attack.
I
So,
know. I did that once in the last few years, just recently with a client, and it's an honest mistake. So that's a different thing, Yeah.
so how we can deal with that is to be really honest and to say, because I could have made an excuse that
Yeah.
wasn't true, but to say, I am so sorry, I've really messed up. I've put that appointment, I realize I put it in the wrong date. Are you able to wait, 30 minutes till I get there? Otherwise, I can reschedule you, and I'm prepared to give you a free appointment to make up for it. It's like taking 100% responsibility. And like, even if you're late, if you're running late, just means a text message. Like, we're not talking about a dinner party so much because there's a lot of work, but to say, I'm sorry, I'm running 10 minutes late. The traffic's really bad. I'm so sorry. I'll be there as soon as I can. Like, that's integrity too. But if somebody does that all the time, you've got to call them on it.
Yes, absolutely. And some people, because they try to avoid conflict at all costs, they don't want to go there and talk to the other person about it. Being polite and courteous means considering how others are feeling. You're considering of their feelings and respectful. You're also setting standards for others' behavior and encouraging them how to treat you with similar respect. So it is very much, like you say, a reflection of you telling the universe how you want to be treated. And if you're not getting that back, then for me, it's very much about boundaries and not having those sorts of energies in your field if they're not, respectful. And so how would you respond to someone who just didn't turn up in this situation? Would you send them a text message afterwards, or would you just leave it, or what would you do?
It depends whether you want to be friends with them or not.
Sure, sure. Yeah.
Right? So there's that you could actually express yourself, whether it be, well, probably text is appropriate. I mean, text, I don't like text, but in some situations like this, maybe, where you say, when I hadn't heard from you, I just want to let you know, when I hadn't heard from you, I assumed you would be coming along
Yes.
to our dinner party.
Yes.
Um, and when you didn't turn up, I felt disrespected and quite hurt, or whatever you want to say, because we'd paid a lot of money for the food and we were really looking forward to seeing you.
And putting a lot of time and effort in.
There was
So
time and effort
getting
in.
everything
Yeah,
ready.
yeah,
That's right. Right.
yeah. And what I needed was a text message 24 hours before, or as soon as you knew, to let us know that you weren't coming. And I would have been happy with that, but it was really disappointing that didn't happen. But then you could say, you know, depending on whether you've done that or not, you've got to be, I can see, however I can see I need to take responsibility because I should have double confirmed 24 hours before and been more
I
maybe.
sort of did that because I sent them a message 24 hours before reminding them that it was on and we were looking forward to seeing them. So I sort of did that.
But maybe there was that part missing where you said, if there's any chance you won't be able to come, we really appreciate letting us know because we're going out and we're making a great feast of this, or whatever you want to say. You know
Yes.
what I mean?
Yeah.
So maybe that part was missing.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
I'm not saying it is, and they might have still done the same thing.
Sure. I hear you. Right. Okay, cool. Well, to me, what you're saying effectively is that it's all about having really, really, really clear communication about everything that you're doing with interactions. And I think that that's great advice. So I'm going to run through 10 etiquette rules that we should master. And
Oh, cool.
please
Okay.
feel free to comment on these. 1, use proper greetings. Always greet people with a smile and a hello. If you're not sure what to say, a simple hello, how are you will suffice. When meeting someone for the first time, it's also important to introduce yourself and make eye contact while shaking hands. What would you like to say to that?
Absolutely. And I think one of the hardest things is for a lot of people is remembering someone's name.
Yes, totally, totally. And often if you say the name 3 times when you just meet them, you're always going to remember it. But I mean, it's always a little hard sometimes to do that. But
And
that's
also that creates connection because people love the sound of their name.
they do, that's true. It unfortunately mine's a little hard to say, and people say Medina.
I don't think so.
All
It's,
sorts
it's,
of
it's
all
more,
sorts of
it's
variations.
harder to spell. It's harder to spell than to say.
That's true too, it is. You're right there. So okay, we're on to number 2 now, because I do think people forget all this stuff. So, really good to go through it. I'm very good at this. I've always done this. Say please and thank you. These are basic manners that show gratitude and respect. You say please when making a request and thank you when receiving help from others. I know people when I ask something when making a request and they go thank you, which is inaccurate. It needs to be please when they're asking and then thank you when they receive it. Some people get that muddled.
Yeah.
But what can you say about please and thank you? Do you see that out in the field? Do you see people doing that a lot?
I train my children and my grandchildren in please and thank you a lot. I think it's probably missing a bit today, like a lot of things.
Yeah,
Very important, yeah.
I agree. Number 3, some of these are a bit old-fashioned, but anyway, practice good table manners. This includes using utensils properly, keeping your elbows off the table and chewing with your mouth closed. Also, wait until everyone is served before starting to eat.
That's a bit difficult sometimes
I know.
because you go to a restaurant and they serve the meals at different stages and your
Yeah,
food can get cold. I
yeah,
think in that situation, you can say, do you mind if I get started so
yeah.
my meal isn't cold? Or with other people, I say to other people, please eat so it doesn't get cold. It's tricky when you're at a restaurant and things come out at a different time.
That's
Ideally, that's how it should work. And you
sure.
can wait for a little while, but if you
Yeah.
wait too long,
Food's cold.
yes.
Aren't you meant to take your hat off when you're sitting in a restaurant? Things like I'll sometimes wear a hat in
And
and
a cat and a cat, coat.
a
Cat,
cat.
take your cat off.
Your coat off and your hat off. You're not supposed to eat with hat, are you? Strictly speaking.
No, ideally.
Yeah. I mean, everyone does, but
Yeah, ideally.
I mean, I do too. So I'm guilty of that one.
And when it's cold, I leave my coat on because it's cold.
That's right.
Freezing here in Melbourne.
Oh gosh, yes, yeah, absolutely.
About 3 degrees.
0 degrees at night time, hasn't it
I
been?
know. It's really cold at the moment.
Oh, I'm so glad I'm in Queensland. I talk to my family in Melbourne and I think, oh, thank God I'm in Queensland. Um, so next one is 4, be mindful of your language. I've got to tell you a classic. A neighbor that there's one next door, so it's quite a lot. And that one came home to see his child, and the child goes, as he walks in the door, after a long day of work, and the child goes, I love you. And he walks in and he goes, I F I love you. And I thought, oh my God. It was the funniest thing, but not
Yes. I know. We're a bit loose with our language these days, or we can be.
And she's like 5. He goes, oh, I love you.
Yes.
I thought, oh gosh. Oh. Anyway, so that's something that people use a lot in Australia too. The loose use of language.
What's the saying? Loose lips sink ships.
Ships, that's it. There's a lot of ships sunken in Australia, I think. Okay, so next 5, respect personal space. Don't stand too close to people and always ask before touching someone. Be aware of your surroundings and respect people's privacy. That's a fascinating thing about Australia, because there's less people than in a lot of other parts of the world, that you do have a lot more generally personal space. And people, when they interact, they won't stand as close as maybe in parts of the world where there's much more congestion and way more people. There's more of a sort of a distance, a respectful distance between people when they interact, I notice. What are your thoughts on respecting that personal space? Depends on the person, doesn't it?
It
Like
does
how well you
depend on
know
the
them
person.
and all that.
It does, because I love to actually reach out and touch people when I talk to them. Not
Yeah.
everyone, of course, but it's, for me, it's like a connection thing. Not everyone, of course, but
Oh, that's a nice thing. People do like that because it's like a real, connection.
it's a bit like, they talk about when you go to a store or the supermarket or something. They've done studies. The cashiers that touch your hand when they give you back change, people feel a warm feeling towards that cashier, and that they feel a connection of a sense of, unconsciously, of connection to that supermarket or whatever, right?
Oh, right. Oh my God, are they using that as
Except they're getting rid of cash now, so there you go.
They're probably using that as a strategy. It's like they've studied it. Oh my God. Yeah. Oh gosh. Okay, well that's interesting. I'll look out for that next time.
Yeah, so like just even when you pay someone, touch your hand when you pay them,
Okay.
right? It's
Oh,
it's an unconscious connection.
sure. I hear you. Okay, cool. So next one, 6. Oh, dress appropriately. Yeah, at our age, we don't have an issue with not a problem. Okay, well, the next one. 7, be a good listener. Oh,
Hang on, go back though. Go back to the
you
dress.
want to go back dress appropriately.
Because, so if you think about it, like I wrote about this in my book, but there's a lot of our clothes put out a message to people.
Mm,
They
mm,
put out whether we we need to be conscious of what is the message I'm putting out with my clothes.
Mm,
And like, and people don't like this, is controversial saying this, because feminism will hound me down, extreme feminism, but it's, if women or girls are walking around with short dresses and their breasts hanging out and their knickers just about hanging out as they're walking down the street, um, what's the message that they're putting out into the world?
exactly. Anastasia talks about that in her Ring of Cedars books. And she says it creates like a lustful sort of energy in relationships that doesn't work out often long term properly in a proper, respectful relationship with a partner. So she talks about it in depth, and I love the way she talks about it. But yeah, that's very true. And I think that with dressing, it really indicates your personality. So I, for example, wear a lot of color, and I was at a cafe the other day and we started chatting to a guy, and he said, "Oh, you two look like artists to me and my partner." And I thought, "Oh, that's good because I am one." So I'm letting out the vibe of what I'm actually doing, which is a good thing, I think. So it's sort of authentic to who I am at the moment. And I think that's good to give wear clothes that are really showing who you truly are.
Yes, yes. It's interesting because I I've got a very big personality, but I've got red hair, right? So I don't wear really bright clothes because and also I'm tall, because I tend to wear darker clothes, or because I'm I want to subdue my vibrancy. It's very interesting.
How tall are you exactly?
5'7". It's not really tall,
I'm
but I'm
taller than
tall.
you. I'm 5'7.5".
Oh, okay. Well, we're much the
Oh,
same.
actually
And
three points.
I often wear little heels, so
Yes,
that takes you up.
yes.
But I'm tall. I'm got red hair. And I've got a little bit of weight on compared with what I used to have. So it's like I want to. Anyway, that's when I was younger and I was thinner, and probably my personality was always bold, but not as bold as I am now. I would wear more colors clothes. I don't know. I'm exploring that at the moment.
That's interesting. It's great that you feel comfortable to be more of yourself, of who you truly are now, and show it to the world. And I think that I wanted to mention that black is interesting because black absorbs energy. So it's like the completely wrong color to wear at a funeral, because everyone's, if people are upset and miserable, you're absorbing all that misery at the funeral. But if you wear white, it deflects.
Yes,
And it
yes, I've heard
reflects
that.
color. So if you don't want to go out picking up everyone's energy and all that, which everyone in Melbourne wears black, of course, but when you wear white, you're actually not going to be picking up all this energy. And I really love white. I think it really works for me with my energy, and I feel really good in it. But yeah, I think everyone's different.
Well, I've got pale skin and red hair. White's not really my color.
Sure, sure, sure.
That's my story anyway.
Shall we move to the next one?
Yes.
Okay. Now, this is a classic. I mean, gosh, if there is one that really needs to be heard, it's this one. No pun intended. Number 7, be a good listener. Pay attention to what people are saying and show interest in their opinions. Avoid interrupting or dominating the conversation. Oh, I'm a little bit guilty of interrupting at times. I've been really working on that. My partner does it all the time. Also, be respectful. I'll blame him. I'll throw him in the deep end. Also, be respectful and considerate of other people's opinions. I must say, most people I talk to are way more interested in talking about themselves and really aren't that interested in listening. I find when I meet new people, they quite often don't ask any questions about you. They're really not interested, but they love to, talk about themselves. And
Yes,
so the art of actually being interested, genuinely interested in someone else and hearing their story, is becoming a lost art. What are your thoughts?
100%. 100%.
Mm,
And
yeah,
it's like and it's like going to a gym. You've got to practice it.
yeah,
So things like oh, tell me more when they say something. Oh, tell me more about that. Oh, how did you feel about that? Oh, it's open questions, to go deeper so that they feel heard, or just even letting people empty, you
and
know.
reflecting back to them what they've said. So,
Said, yeah,
um,
what,
yeah,
yes,
so letting them feel like they're empty. So reflecting back to you what you've just said. Yeah, so that they know that you've literally heard what they've just said.
yes. And what I'm hearing is that, you were really upset when your mum died. And thanks for sharing that. Like, must have been hard for you.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that that also takes a genuine interest in other people. So if you're not interested in other people and you're closed off, you're not going to want to hear anyone else's story. You're just going to be self-absorbed and interested and involved in yourself. And I think that's the other key, that you've actually got to be genuinely interested in the other person when you're talking to them.
Yes, and in relationships, remember the Gottman training, which is really beautiful stuff, is like what we tend to do in relationships is, which there's the four horsemen, the four killers in relationship, which is being defensive, where we go, but, and someone will tell you something, but you did this, but, I never said that. La, 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 la. It's like this defensiveness. Then there's criticism, where we go, you always, or you never. And we use the word you
Yes.
rather than I, And then there's stonewalling, where we shut down. Somebody will share something with us and say, oh, I'm going to golf now.
Haven't heard of
Men,
that.
men are better at stonewalling than women, but women do it as well.
Yes.
It's where somebody can't, they freeze, or they or they have flight, which they go away. Um, and and then the other one is contempt, where we assassinate somebody's character. You know,
Yes.
where we demean them, like the stuff I hear couples say to each other to make your hair turn, head
Oh, wow.
curl, like you're a piece of shit,
Oh,
or really nasty stuff. I hate you. Um, you're you're a loser. Stuff like that. It's called contempt,
yeah.
and this that these things create disease in people.
Oh, yeah. Cancer for sure.
That creates toxic relationships and disease. And, their studies, they're the only people in the world that have done scientific studies in a lab to see how many couples, depending on how they deal with disagreements, end up being together. And within 7 years, couples that use those four things, defensiveness, criticism, stonewalling, and contempt, they'll be divorced within 7 years. They can actually, so before somebody even gets married or lives with somebody, they could predict, or, you and I could predict or anyone can predict by learning this, if that relationship's going to work out. But the key is that can be changed when you can actually transform the way that you communicate. But you can't do that until you see the way that you communicate.
Absolutely. You've got to be able to
Have
recognize
awareness.
yourself. Yeah, that's true that you're doing that. So what role does gaslighting have? Because people sometimes wonder what gaslighting is. That's also something that can come in, can't it?
I think that's common. A lot of people do that.
Yes.
That
So what is it exactly so people know what it is? Because there are people wondering about that, I think.
so where the term came from, there might have been another place, but the term came from that there was a man supposedly in the 20th century or whenever it was, or the 20th century, when they had the gas lights, and his wife would come home from being out and she would say, "Have you turned the lights down?" And he would say, "No, you're imagining it." And then she'd be out again and she'd come back and the lights were down even further. And she'd say, "You have turned the lights down, haven't you? I think they're down even more." "No, you're imagining it." So, so
Yeah.
it's where you're made to feel like you're crazy when it's actually verifiable. It's
Right.
like if you said to your partner, "I saw you with another woman at the shops the other day," and you had your arm around her, and he said, "You're imagining it."
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Sure.
it makes you think,
I'm going mad.
"I'm going
I'm
mad
imagining
and
it.
I'm imagining it," right?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So it's a way that things are twisted around to make you so that they don't take responsibility for what they are saying or doing.
And they put it back on you to question yourself instead of getting to the truth. Yeah, sure. Gotcha.
Yeah,
That's interesting sharing that story because that really makes sense of what it means, gaslighting.
yeah.
And if anyone's doing that to you, um, run. What do you suggest people do if someone is interacting with them a lot in a relationship in that way?
Well, we get into things like narcissism, which I don't like talking about that because it's thrown around a lot.
Sure.
But there are personality disorders, and which is only about 10% of the population. But I do think in the average relationship that can happen too.
Mm. Yeah.
It's not specific to,
People don't want to people don't want to take responsibility sometimes for what they're doing, that they don't even unconsciously want to recognize it, let alone consciously, so they maybe don't see it in themselves, or they turn reality a different way because they can't deal with the truth of reality. So
yeah,
uh,
masters of deception.
sure,
Masters of deception that um where people believe their own lies.
sure, sure. Okay, well, we'll move on to the next one because I know that's a whole rabbit hole there that we could go
No,
down.
it's too hard now.
That's right. So the next one, and this is a good one for young people to hear. Uh, 8, put your phone away. Avoid using phone or other electronic devices when in the presence of others, especially during a conversation or meeting.
Yes, and I actually saw a really good little video that made me more present to this, which was, even if you have your phone turned off and you have it on the table,
Mhm.
it's it's
Like a barrier, an unconscious barrier.
yeah, it's like it's in the space. So ideally, I thought that was a really good teaching, and I got present to where I do that. I'll have it turned off and I might have it upside down, or and from then onwards, I got rid of my phone totally and put it in my purse or on the floor or wherever, because then it's this thing, I am totally here for you. You
Mm.
know, I'm not going to allow anything to interrupt me. You know,
Yes, it's respectful. It's 100% presence. Yeah, yeah,
unless, I mean, Medina, occasionally, maybe you've got a babysitter at home and you've got children, or a young child or something, you would need to have your phone
yeah,
there. There are occasions, or you're expecting your mum's sick, or there's some drastic going on, she's in the hospital. There
yeah,
are times when you need your phone there, but most of the time we don't.
sure, absolutely. Oh, well, that's really an important point. I think at the moment, people are so unconscious in their use of phones, and that the phone is a separation between you and other people. And I mean, even I was walking on an oval the other day, and I passed this young person, and normally I'd just smile at them and there'd be that nice little interaction, but they're just locked on their phone, and they didn't look. And I thought, well, they've missed a positive energy coming, by doing that. And it's a shame because it's so disconnecting of us all in terms of the collective consciousness. So very important to be mindful of phone.
Yeah, and the like, you think about all these single people that are in the world now,
Mm.
and they could be sitting on a train or a tram or at a bus stop. Your ideal partner could be right beside you, and you're sitting there
And you miss
looking. Everyone's looking at their phone,
it.
and so people are so disconnected from themselves, not
Yeah,
and others. I know it's a real problem.
absolutely. So number 9 is practice good communication. So we covered this earlier, being clear and concise when communicating. Never more important to be clear and concise than now, I believe, with the way the world is and everything. Uh, and sometimes my throat, when I'm talking about clear communication, my throat just went, that's funny. So be mindful of nonverbal communication. That's my throat, such as body language. It can convey a lot of information about your intentions and emotions. So, being clear, I guess, yourself about what you want and what you want to convey before you communicate to others, so that you know what you want to express. Because if you're not clear, then they won't be able to be clear either. So that clear communication is about really knowing yourself, know thyself, that famous quote from someone very famous. It just escaped me at the moment. Know thyself.
Thales or Socrates?
I
I think
love Socrates. I love Socrates. Yes, yes.
yeah, it's
It
Thales or Socrates. Yeah.
was. Very good. So, and the other one we discussed earlier was 10, be punctual. Show respect for other people's time by being punctual for appointments and meetings. If you're running late, let the other person know as soon as possible as well. And that is really important. Do you think younger people have less respect for these rules of etiquette than older people?
No, I don't notice.
A difference. Okay.
I don't think so. I think that's across the board.
Sure.
I mean, look at doctors. They're a classic, aren't they? Why don't they get their receptionist to ring people to say, look, he's running an hour late because he had to go to emergency or whatever?
Yeah.
Um, it's all in communication, and people would love a doctor that would do that.
Yes, that's right. Oh, that would really.
Or text the patients to say, just
Yeah.
letting you know, Dr. Smith is running half an hour late.
Yeah. Because if it was the other way around, um, you know, and you were running late and they'd have to wait for you, they wouldn't be happy with that. It was like, my time is more important than yours, so we don't need to say anything. And do you think it's sometimes a bit of a control mechanism of having power over others when people do that?
Yeah, it's like, oh, well, I'm important, or yes,
Pay
I'm
attention.
important. I'm important, so I can get away with it.
Yeah, exactly.
Something I don't know. There's some
Underlying thing there.
undelivered unconscious information too.
Yes. What about someone who's just scatty and they're just not aware of time and they don't have a negative intention, but they're just sort of in the flow and they don't realize about time. What would you say to those people?
Well, that's an excuse. They use that as an excuse. It's a way of being to avoid responsibility,
Sure.
because we create ourselves, right?
No, we totally do. Well, it's been a fantastic chat, Jane. I think so timely. I was like, I had to do this video today. This is really important stuff. And just for us all to be mindful of these things and share this video with other people that you think might benefit from watching it. Because as far as I can tell, a lot of the basic courtesies have gone down the drain a bit lately with people. And I know there's an intensity, there's, so much happening in the world. We're going through a transition. I know there's all those reasons, but again, they could be excuses for not doing the right thing. And at a higher level, our spiritual integrity, our integrity is everything. Our word is everything. And when you say you do something, you do it, you as clear as you can be with communication with people, you honor people's time and their energy. And all these things are just so important right now. What would you like to say as a final thing to this video today, Jane?
Um, there's a great quote that says, "Without integrity, nothing works." It's a bit like a building, that it has to have structural integrity or it'll crack. Um, so our life is no different.
Yeah, it's
Um,
absolutely.
Very important.
It's a fundamental
It's a,
foundation
it's
of
a
this.
foundational value,
Yeah.
100%.
And if we're all oneness, if we're all one, then everything that we do to someone else will on some level come back to us as well. So you don't do things with the intention of being treated well yourself, but that is ultimately what happens. What everything you put out comes back to you in some way. So it's always about, I guess, bringing it back to self and look at the areas that you can do better as well. And then that means everyone's accountable. So fantastic chat, Jane. So wonderful to chat to you as always. And please,
Great to see you.
oh, thank you, darling. Please leave comments below for the viewers for any situation that you've recently had where you've had an issue with etiquette or manners or something you'd like to say about the topic. Please leave it in the comment below. I love all the comments. And I'll also leave Jane's details below if anyone would like to contact Jane. We both are open to,
Oops.
sorry, just a call came through. So I'm just going to leave all the details below for Jane and myself. Jane obviously does sessions for people in relationships, and if you'd like to see Jane, all her details are below. I'm also obviously do sessions too. So if you're guided to also do a session with me, my details are below. And again, thank you, Jane. It's so beautiful to see you, and I hope to connect again soon.
My pleasure. Lots of love.
Lots of love.
God
Bye.
bless.
Bye.
God bless. Bye.